Hello friends, you are at the Erudite coaching classes and today's topic we are covering is AngularJS and we will study today about the introduction to the AngularJS. Okay, what is the first? First topic is the introduction to the AngularJS. What is AngularJS? AngularJS is open source web application framework. What do you mean by it? Okay, so whenever you have to create an HTML page, whenever you have to create some application, what will you do? You define something in your HTML and that defines your structure of your applications. Now you think, oh, it's not looking good. What will you do? You define the css is the presentation level of your application. Now you will say, oh, my application is looking good but it is not performing any operations, so you will define your code in the JavaScript file. Okay, so that defines the functionality of your application on the client end. Now what happens? Whenever you return this JavaScript file, that will be the quite complex if your application is slightly big. But AngularJS provides you certain features. It provides the functionality. It provides a complete framework for designing your web application in an easy way. Okay. So what's this next point? The AngularJS you can download from the AngularJS website in the form of .js file, and it is completely written in the JavaScript. When it is being developed, it was developed in the 2009 and currently the complete code is maintained by the Google and it is completely open source. You can go into the GitHub and can download the source from there. And this is the link to the website angularjs.org. Go to that website. Now what are the features that we are going to study about the AngularJS? AngularJS is actually powerful JavaScript framework for creating the rich internet applications or SPS, single page applications. What here we means by the single page applications? So earlier we used to create only the static applications, so it's on the 90s. So at that time what happens, you create about me.htmls, product.htmls and other HTML files, and which complete content is static on the HTML page itself. Then there is a concept of the dynamic applications. In case of the dynamic applications, the actual data start coming from the servers, and on the certain actions you started fetching data from the server. Now what is SPA? You define only a single HTML page and your complete logic to perform on all the operations. For example, on the face, about me, home page, you click only single page is the HTML page, rest code is the completely handled in the JavaScript. So that is the single page applications. Next features is the cross browser compliant. How it is cross browser compliant? Okay, let's take an example. You have written some JavaScript code. You opened it on the Chrome browser and you find it's working perfectly fine. Now you open it on the Firefox, and on the Firefox you find it is completely broken. So what could be the cause? You have not handled it for the Firefox. But it's not true for the AngularJS. AngularJS, you return the code only once and it is compliant on all the browsers. Okay. It gives user a capability to write the client's code in the complete MVC model view controller format. It is a design pattern. We will study it later while designing our applications. And it is an open source. It is available and a community of the developer contribute to it. Okay, so what's next? How I will include AngularJS in my applications? There are the many ways: npm module, browser. But yeah, we will study only two ways for now. We will later study other ways. Okay, so first, what is the basic way? Go to the AngularJS website, download the angularmin.js, include in your script tag inside your HTML file. And second method is the CDN. So you can copy the link from the AngularJS website and include it directly here. So you don't need to download it. So if you are working offline, go with the step 1. If you are working online, then go with the step 2. Okay, how I will perform these operations? I will go to the AngularJS website first. Okay, here I can click on the download AngularJS. It will open a pop-up. So here you see it is branch 1.6.x it is latest. You can go with the build minified or the uncompressed or cheap. I think you should go with the minified since you don't want to probably debug. If you want to debug, go with the uncompressed. Okay, you can download it, then include into your page. Otherwise, copy that CDN. Okay, I have some application already being written here. I will just remove those things. We will come here at the end. Okay, now I will include here the script. How I will include that, probably you could remove. Here we have put src, and here I will put the AngularJS. Now this application is AngularJS application. Okay, now we will again go to our PPT. What next? So there are the few important statements that I have written about the AngularJS. So what are these statements? AngularJS extends the HTML attributes. What does it means? So if you pick any of the element from the HTML, for example, we pick the paragraph, it has certain attributes. For example, it has padding, it has margin, it has style, and many others attributes. So we extend the attributes of the HTML element. So we add few more attributes. So those attributes that we add to the any element, these are known as the AngularJS attributes, and these are also known as ng directives, because every attribute starts with the ng. Okay, next point is AngularJS binds data using the expressions that you will understand very quickly in next 2 or 3 slides. So our first directive is the ng app directive. So what it does, whenever you define the ng app as an attribute to any element, for example here in the div we define an attribute ng app, and this value is completely blank. So blanked value here indicates that it is a default application. So whenever you define ng app, it defines an application, or we say div is the owner of that applications. So whenever ng app is defined, the state of the application with that name is got initialized. What is the next directive? Next directive is ng modal. So ng modal directives here says that it binds the value of input control. So in the HTML, in the form you can define the certain type of the control. For example, it could be text, it could be password, it could be slag, drop down, text area, it could be checkbox, it could be radio button, and there could be other types of the input. Okay, so whatever value we put in those inputs, that will be bind to the application data. Means in the application itself we create some variable and store the value of those input controls to those variables. Okay, for example, here I have given some example. So I have defined an input of type text, so it has a text type input control, and ng modal to name. So in the application a variable with the name got created, and whatever we type in the input box got stored in that variable. Okay, so in the last slide we see we have created a variable in the application. Now we want to read that variable. How I will do? I will do it using ng bind. ng bind reads the variable from the application and show it on the HTML view. Okay, now let's try these things. So we go to this some editor. Okay, what will we do? We will first define a div. Here we will define our ng app. My app is blank because I am using the default application. Here we will define some input. Here we will define it as type text. Here I will define ng modal and some variable. I set it as name. Now I want to print the value of this p. What will I do? Here are the ng bind, print the value of the variable name in this paragraph. So let's run it. Open it in the browser. I type something here. Oh, value get printed. That's fine. That's fantastic. Okay. Now we will again go to our slide. What next? So here we are studying about ng init. What ng init does? So at the starting you have seen the text box that I have shown on the page is completely blank, but I want to initialize its state. How I will initialize that state? So ng init directive, what that does, whatever variable we can initialize it in state. So here I define variable with the car name, value is the Swift, and here I bind with the ng bind. It will print on the HTML page the value of the car name, so Swift will be shown on the page. So again in our application we will go and we will define here ng bind. Okay, here the name, and I initialize it with the Aj. Again I save it. Again I go to my browser, I initialize it. So your essential components in your AngularJS applications when the application is being loaded. Now I will go to the AngularJS expressions. What is the AngularJS expressions? The AngularJS expression I defined in the doubly curly braces. So whatever I defined in the doubly curly braces, AngularJS tried to resolve that expressions. So let's take an example here. Go to this paragraph P. Here define some 2 star 10 slash P. Now again go to the browser and tries to see the value. It has shown the values here as the 20. Now again here go to here. Now we are printing the value of variable name using the ngbind, but you can print it using your expressions. So here you can go and you can write it as name and here the slash P. Okay, again go to your browser. Oh, it's printing the value as name. So instead of ngbind you can use here the double braces to resolve your expressions. Okay, again go to our slides. Now our AngularJS applications. So currently we are using the default application. Now we will define our own applications. So we will study about the two things: a module. So modules create an applications, and that application we can use as the ng app, and controller controls applications, and in your you can use using ng controller. So let's try an example. Go here, write some script. Okay, here we will define where Angular is a default variable. Here we will try to create a module name. It will be my app, and dependent modules it will be blank for now. App.controller. Okay, here in the double braces we will write the control, and here we will write some function. This function will take $scope as the default variable, and whatever variable you initialize with the scope dot some variable. For example, my name Ajay. Now use it in your application. Let me remove all this old code from here. Okay, I will remove ngbind. Here my app name is my app, or here ng controller we have to define, and its value is my ctrl. Okay, and here in the paragraph I will try to print the value of my name. Okay, I saved it. Now I will try to open it in the browser, and it is printing the name as it. That's perfectly fine. That's what we wanted. Now thank you to you. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and you can contact us anytime at the erudite@gmail.com. You can send your feedbacks, but I hope you will like this lecture and you will subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it.